Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing off a little bit of a redstone circuit. It's a countdown circuit, mostly in relation to what's behind me here. This is the Super Duper Super Smelter by GWall 2020. And as far as super smelters for Bedrock go, this I think is probably the best. I haven't found anything better than this. Really, it's efficient, it's fast, it's awesome. So go check out his channel, go check this thing out, really, because like I say, it's awesome. However, I think it can use a little bit of improvement, and that's what I'm going to be working on today. There are a couple things that sort of, well, like I said, it can be improved. So how this works is it's run off of an etho hopper clock right here, and you turn it on, and there you go. And all these feet tape around. You'd have an input at the top, you have an output at the bottom, you have the coal at the side. However, I think this can be a bit more automated with an auto start and a cool down stop. The auto start is simple. All you'd have to do is take a reading off your input chest to activate the clock, but then you need to have these furnaces continue to cycle around so that any items that's still in them being cooked can have a chance to drain out, and that is what the countdown timer part is for. So I know of two counters that can be hooked to a clock. The first one is this, which is basically you have a bunch of hoppers ringing around facing into each other. They're locked by the redstone on top, and in one of them you have an item, and that item outputs and can be used to lock your etho hopper clock. And now with the etho hopper clock, it has power dust usually on both sides, and then when the items in one hopper flow completely into the other hopper, this redstone dust blinks off for a little bit, and that blinks this dust off, and it allows that one item to move into the next hopper until it gets back around to here, and then it shuts your clock off again. And that means these hoppers are basically your counting system. So this is a count of 6. If you want to count of 5, you remove one piece of redstone dust. And that allows the item to just flow through that one hopper into the next one. This counter with the etho hopper clock is good if you have a fast clock with a small number in it and a small to moderate count down here, because if you have a larger count, you obviously have to add more hoppers, and that gets to be bulky and expensive iron wise. That's pretty much what I'm explaining here. Fast clock, small to moderate count. And I don't think I need to demonstrate this because it's pretty straightforward. Now the other counter I know about is this setup right here. This I saw on Tango Tech's, I think it's the Iron Trench video. He used this, and if he got it from somewhere else or if he designed it, I'm not quite sure, but that's where I got this from. And that relies on a dropper facing into a hopper, facing back, a couple comparators, and a NOR latch system right here, which pretty much locks your hopper, so that when you trigger the dropper, the item goes into the hopper until this is empty, and then the NOR latch flips, releasing the power on the hopper. It flows back, and then when there's nothing in the hopper, this flips again. Your output for this circuit is from this redstone torch that's off of the hopper, and that's what the piston here is demonstrating. So if I do this 4 more times, 1, 2, 3, 4, blunk, that goes up. Or rather, it changes state. Now, you saw there was a bit of a delay between me flicking the switch and this activation, and that is due to the amount of time it takes for items to drain from your hopper into your dropper. And now because of that, and because the Etho hopper clock also works on items draining from a hopper into another hopper, the drawback to this system, due to the resetting aspect of this, is that the max count you can get out of this is 3 less than what is in the clock. So if you have 7 items in your Etho hopper clock, your max count on this is 4 because of that delay, of this resetting. For our furnace array, in our clock we have 32 items, so really it doesn't matter. In our dropper we're going to have, I believe it's 8. And so that really doesn't matter. But there is that delay or that drawback with this setup. This is better with larger counts, obviously, because you can put a whole mess of items in here and you're not changing the actual size of your circuit. That's why I like this a bit better than the hopper circle. And that's, I explained about the max count would be 3 less than what's in the clock. Now this particular arrangement is kind of spread out and bulky. I condensed it. This is the exact same circuit as what's over there. Exact same circuit. It's just the NOR latch is vertical with the redstone torch, the dust, the redstone torch down here, the dust on top. We still have the dropper, the hopper, comparator coming out into a block with a torch on it, and that torch powers this side. Over here we have a comparator coming out of the dropper into a torch with a redstone dust here, triggering this. So it's the exact same circuit, and still our output is off the side that has the hopper, as this indicates. Now if we power, over there I did it powering the dropper directly, but if you do that, it does actually lock your hopper from draining back. So what you're going to want to do is power a block next to your dropper. That way you're not locking your hopper in a way you don't want to lock it. So that's what I'm doing here. There we go. And like that. Okay, so this is the counter I'm going to use, and that hopper clock is the clock I'm going to use, and this is the completed circuit, the expanded circuit for the furnace array. This is what it looks like, overhead view. You've got your clock, you've got your counter, and then we have over here, this is a falling edge monostable circuit feeding into this, and then this represents our input chest from the furnace. So I'm going to walk through this real quick. When there's nothing in your furnace, this is the state it's in. Comparator, repeater, immediately that splits and one line comes down here to the input for the counter. Now I have a repeater here to keep this power from backing up down the line from this redstone torch. From here we go into a redstone torch, which is priming, as it were, our falling edge monostable circuit, which again is going into this block with our redstone torch. From this way, it's coming over here, being flipped with the redstone torch over to this block, and this torch is actually locking our clock. And what we're going to have to do is when there are, oh yeah, this was the other thing. When there are items in our input chest, we do not want our counter to be counting. We want it to just be sitting neutral with our clock running back and forward until all the items are out of the chest. That's why I'm doing it this way. So this clock is basically controlled by the chest until the chest runs out, then the counter takes over. And that's what this is about, this line coming off our output from our counter. At a certain point, this will take over, keeping this unlocked, keeping the counter going until our count, keeping the clock going until our count runs out. So yeah, that's the other part of this. This line is coming here to, again, a block with a redstone torch, and then this line into our clock. And this little bit to this redstone torch from your clock to your counter is what advances the counter. Now we need this monostable circuit because we need to basically prime the counter to take over from the chest when it's that time. And we can't guarantee that the clock will do that because the clock may be in one state and it'll just not trigger this redstone torch to advance the count. So that's why we have this here. So a quick demonstration. There we go, item in. It's powering this down through here. Yeah, see, this is blinking this, but it's not advancing our count because it's already a powered line. So as long as there's an item in there, it is keeping the clock running indefinitely. Now when we take the item out, this blinked. Oh boy, there we go. And that advanced once here. That clock is keeping the clock, that torch is keeping the clock running, and then it resets itself and locks our clock. I hope that explained it well enough. There's our 7 items. Here's our 3 less. Again, these are the bits and pieces. So if you need to rearrange things for your furnace, you can pick it apart, run your lines however you want, but these are the basic components. There you go. Good overhead view, the different pieces. Alright, so I assume you've already gone through G-Walls tutorial. You've made your own furnace. So now let's get into implementing this over here. I have taken a little liberty to make some changes. Some of them are cosmetic. Like this, I moved all the chests up into one spot. We have our input, our output, our coal, and then for a manual cycle I put a block here between with a lever, and I use that for when I'm initially putting coal into the furnaces. I can just have them run around and put coal or whatever fuel source into the furnaces without actually having to cook anything. Some changes I made to his original design. His design was going counterclockwise, and I've changed mine to go clockwise for a reason. Originally he had his input chest in the middle, but I've shifted it to the right by 1 block so that I can have my output chest as well up there. And in doing that, I flipped this redstone and these hoppers just side to side, down here and up here. I just flipped them side to side, otherwise it's the exact same circuit. And then what we need to do is bring this line of hoppers down to connect That way we're feeding into both the top row and the bottom row like he was doing. And I figure since we're feeding into both the top and the bottom, we'll pull out of both the top and the bottom. So here I have these hoppers to pull items out of these furnaces at the top, and then here in the middle, these hoppers to pull items out of the bottom. And then for spacing reasons, I drop down, come over, and then I'll have a dropper vader connecting into this, connecting into that, connecting up to our output chest. And then I'm taking comparator readings. Well, there'll be a dropper on top of this. I'm taking a comparator reading off of that and a comparator reading here off the bottom one. Okay. For the coal, I am connecting one furnace up into the sides here. Otherwise, it's again the exact same circuit that he had. I just moved it up by one block. This is an observer powering down. Redstone dust along those pistons. On this left bottom side, I put the observer in the back corner, facing up, and that powers this line of redstone dust. I have this one a half slab because of the additional redstone that's going in, so I made this block a half slab. Here in the top right corner, top left corner, top left, observer, and redstone dust there. Alright, this is our input chest. Here's our comparator and repeater on the other side of the wall, and that's going into a block. Redstone dust along the top of these. These are the starting pistons to start the feed tape. This is part of the original circuit. This is the original circuit. And this little bit's the original circuit. So it's pretty straightforward so far what I'm doing. Just kind of a side view if you want to get a placement for where the wall is. And feel free obviously to pause the video so you can follow along. But I figure this is an easier way than trying to do a block by block tutorial. So here we are, we brought our line down, our input line down. We brought our dropper vader up. On this top comparator goes into some redstone dust and a redstone torch here on the inside. For the bottom one, into a block, a redstone torch on the I'm gonna call this the face, on the face of it. Okay, here we go. Over here for the coal, this is the circuit that he went through. Comparator, block, comparator, redstone dust, repeater. Came over 4, up and out 1, over. And this is to control the coal. Now in this case, he had the dropper outputting a signal on the inside. And I just moved it on the outside for spacing reasons. But that is to help with that part. This is the starting pistons, so we come down with a block and an observer looking out. So this is going to start the feed tape. Okay. This was the block we left off with over here. So we put a little bit of redstone dust on it. Come over to with a repeater and some more redstone dust. And then to work in the manual cycle switch on the other side of the wall, half slab dust, we come up and over one with dust on top. And then we're going to do a redstone torch. Then we come out one and down one with a block with dust and redstone torch. And that's going to be a line leading down to the clock. This is the line coming from the clock. This is the line going down to the counter. So we're basically getting our line started and set up. Okay. So there's that step. Next, we work in our torch tower for our dropper Vader. Our comparator, redstone dust, redstone torch. So we bring in a block here, redstone dust on top of those, torch, torch. Now this is going to be a rapid fire clock. Probably a bit overkill for what we need, but I really don't want items to get stuck in the dropper Vader. We have the observer looking down onto this torch, redstone dust on top, block, repeater, into the block here, and then we are alternating redstone torches coming up. Okay, for the bottom one, this was our block with our torch. Again, we're doing kind of a U shape. Redstone torches, up here, repeater, again, into a block, torch. In this, I wished I could have gotten this inside, but spacing reasons, I couldn't. So, torch, and then we zigzag our torches coming up and feeding into this. So actually we're having the bottom and the middle feed into this torch tower. Don't forget, block here to separate this redstone dust from this redstone dust. Just block to separate those. Okay. This I think is all the same still. Alright. So this is our falling edge monostable circuit. From our torch up top, we come to the side, redstone dust. That's going to trigger our dropper with one item, hopper going into that. A couple half slabs with our comparator and repeater into a block. And for reference, again, this is the block with the torch that's working our hopper. That's part of the original stuff right there. Off of our observer, we have a piston. And here's our etho hopper clock. Piston, hoppers, redstone, piston, block with redstone dust, comparator into a block. And in this case, we're going to throw on a torch on the front of this, and then down and over a block with redstone dust and another torch. And this is going from the clock to trigger and work the counter. That's why we're doing this a little bit. And again, for reference, that's all part of the coal circuit. If you can't tell, that's in subtract mode. Okay. So that's those two components. Next, we add in the counter. Again, the exact same setup I had over there. From our torch, under our torch is our dropper. And I think we have 8 items in here rather than 6, but there's our dropper going into our hopper, comparator out, redstone torch, dust, torch, comparator, dust on top, and then this block is what's going to power our dropper, the one that's under it. And from there we come over and down one, and that is our redstone dust to begin triggering that. And this is coming from our chest up top. So we've got that in place. Make sure I didn't add anything else in front, and I did not. Okay. Now basically we're running our lines. We're connecting up our lines. So from up top, this is coming from our chest. Come down 3 more. Turn the angle, come down, and connect to this block with redstone dust. So there's one line. On the other side of our counter, again, this was our output. We're going to run a line out 4, and then back in 3, and that's going into a torch tower coming up from the counter. Torch tower coming up. Now from this block, we're basically down 2 with another block and dust. And that's how these match up. Redstone torch on the front, and this is what's locking our clock. It locks it, or rather unlocks it, from the chest and from our counter. Both directions. And then from our monostable circuit here, we come forward a block and down with some redstone dust, sticky piston with a redstone block, and that, when that fires, will trigger this once. Will trigger our counter once, and that primes the counter to take over from our chest to run the clock. Okay, and now lastly, because that's basically it. That's basically what I showed you over there. Now lastly, there is one more little thing I noticed when I was doing my tests and running, and that is on the inside here, the hopper under there that feeds into the furnace would get backed up with items when the last item left the chest, because it didn't allow this torch to blink one more time to drop those items into the furnace. So to deal with things getting stuck in there, I did add one more little piece of line. I think it happens here too on the top. I know specifically it happens at the bottom. And that one last little bit of circuit is again coming off your clock. I have an observer looking at this spot at the clock, firing into a block, coming down, triggering some redstone. Then we have half slab, dust, and a repeater on 2 ticks feeding into this torch. That torch right there, to make sure that items drain from this last hopper into the furnace. And then for the top one, coming around to this side, working our way into here, this is the one that's triggering your feed tape, this observer, and that block was already there, right there in the back. All I did was come off the face with half slab and a little bit of redstone dust. I came up and put 2 half slabs, redstone dust, and again a repeater into the block that is releasing items from the hoppers into the furnaces. So that's how I took care of that little bit. The last little bit of circuit. And that's it. You can build up your platform around it. You can build up your wall. And then it runs. It runs beautifully. So, hope you found something interesting with this. Hope you can use it, follow along. If you can't, let me know. If you need anything else explained in any more detail. And I got a comment in the last video that maybe my texture pack was too distracting and busy. So I'm trying this out. This is the Faithful texture pack. If you guys like it better, again, let me know in the comments. Looking for feedback. I appreciate you sticking around this long. and hope you have a great day, evening, night, and hopefully I'll see you again. Thanks. Bye.